Hello, I'm Anthony Warlow, currently at the Opera House performing with Opera Australia. This documentary deals with a subject close to my heart, the blood-related cancers known as lymphoma. I was diagnosed with lymphoma nearly 15 years ago. It can be a grim and complicated disease, but as you'll see, there is now a wave of optimism as more and more people are surviving its assault.
I come from a small town on the seaside called Tumby Bay. And some 20 miles out from us is the St Joseph Bank group of islands.
Yeah, it's beautiful, isn't it? Come on! Here we are! Come on! Come on!
I just want to be out there and enjoy the scenery, everything that goes on out at sea. I love it. You get a major scare, you think about the better things in life, and I want to have a little bit of enjoyment with my wife. I've got lots to look forward to.
12 months ago, he was starting to get very, very tired, and he was sleeping in the afternoons, and his appetite was fading, and he was losing weight. But he said to me, he said, "Don't panic." He said, "I'm just getting older. I don't eat as much as I used to eat."
The day the doctor told me I had this cancer, I was scared, full stop. Didn't know what was happening. Why is this happening? What have I done wrong to do it? And, you know, how am I going to get through this?
There's a wide variety of symptoms that can indicate that a patient has lymphoma. And when patients finally come to diagnosis, then it's quite a shock to find they have a malignant disease, which is often incurable.
He's always been a happy-go-lucky chap. He can turn the charm on when he wants to.
It's a good life. It's been a dream come true. I met a young girl when we were both very young. We were kids. I think we went through, I suppose, the old-fashioned progressive steps of engagement, marriage, 3 years down the track, babies come along.
We decided when we got married that we'd have children within a couple of years so that we could grow up with them and enjoy doing the things together. And it's worked out fine. We've had plenty of good times.
Oh, Luke's got a fish. What do you got, mate? Oh, big snook. Look at the size of that.
When we went to Darwin, he was managing the Woolworths and also cheap foods up there. And Mark's dream was always to come back to Tumby Bay and open and have his own bakery. So we bought the building and we came back, and it took us about 3 months, and we gutted the building, repainted and got all new equipment in the building and started it up.
The difficult part was we had 2 young children, and a bakery is probably like no other business where you're working night and day. So I'm coming home when Karen's going to work and vice versa.
On Saturday nights they used to do the baking for a run to Port Lincoln on a Sunday, so they'd go in at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, so us kids, we'd go with them. And we'd take our sleeping bags and we'd set ourselves up a little bit and we'd sleep there while they worked until, say, 3 or 4 in the morning.
We'd never had an open space bakery like that where the customers could come in and actually see the production going on, and it was a novelty for the people of the town, and to have somewhere where you could go and sit in the street and have a cup of coffee was great.
That's what makes it harder when someone at the age of 47, when everything's just rolling along and the business is getting better and better and better, The daughter's just got married and I've given her the best wedding I possibly could. And my son's now in the Navy. Things are going really sweet. Bang. This has happened. The day the doctor told me that was the worst day of my life, I was simply sitting like I am here, sitting talking to you, and he said, "We won't worry about the problem that you came in for. You have a more urgent matter." And I said to him, "What is that?" And he said, "We think it might be non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. It's cancer." And the moment he said that word, my heart fell out my big toe.
It was terrible. I mean, we got to Penindi, which is about halfway home, and Mark just had to stop the car and he started to vomit.
I was slumped over the steering wheel. I wasn't crying, I was howling. It just overtook me. And so next minute Karen's howling and it was like a pack of dingoes. It wasn't very pleasant.
He rang about 7 o'clock one night and just told us over the phone he had cancer. And we were devastated, just devastated.
Nobody likes to think you're going to lose one of your children. Usually it's the other way around. Parents go before the children. But in this case we thought we were going to lose him.
I really hadn't heard much about lymphomas. You always hear about cancer, but you don't hear of lymphomas. And to know that there's so many different forms of cancer and that some can be treated and some can't had really been something that I didn't really know much about.
This is a normal lymph node, and you can see that it has nice zones of cells, very clustered tightly together. In comparison, if we have lymphoma or cancer of the lymph nodes, it no longer has that pattern. The cells have now grown out of control. They no longer respond to the normal instructions, and they just basically form a solid mass of cells.
There are more than 30 subtypes of lymphoma, so treatment can range from simply watching and waiting, where no specific therapy is administered, all the way through to very aggressive treatment, which includes intensive chemotherapy and sometimes bone marrow transplant.
You live in the country and all of a sudden you've got to have treatment in Adelaide. It's between 600 and 700 kilometres away, 7 hours travelling.
The social worker from the hospital came to see us and got us in touch with the Leukaemia Foundation, which got us a unit on King William Road. And it was just fantastic because with the units you don't have to pay to stay there. And we were actually there for 5 months.
The Leukaemia Foundation had 4 units. That was a 2-bedroom unit. It very much became our home to the point where we were calling it home.
For regional patients, they come into these units and everything is here for them. About 5 years ago the King William Road units came online and it became very clear very quickly we just simply didn't have enough. So these units on Richmond Road were found about 2 years ago.
Ladies and gentlemen, I declare these units open.
What we need for the future is developing facilities that will cope with the future needs.
The important thing about lymphoma, though, is that it's increasing in incidence and at quite an alarming rate. The incidence has actually doubled over the last 20 years and we're seeing about a 3 to 4% increase in incidence annually. So that's a very worrying trend, quite an alarming trend.
Mark was admitted to hospital. He got that bad that he had to be admitted. He had his first lot of chemo and he came out of that and then he had another lot and then we were able to take him home, but he was just so lethargic and felt so sick that he just couldn't do a thing. It was terrible.
And I'm sliding. I'm going downhill fast. 10 kilos in 6 days, and it started to get well, it didn't start to get scary, it was just getting scarier.
I'd always known Mark, and I just couldn't believe the change in him, the physical change in those few weeks since I'd seen him, and he's sitting in the chair there, and yeah, it was pretty devastating.
And I said, "How you going, Quentin?" And he looked at me and he never replied. And Quentin's always got something to say, good or bad, but he never replied. He simply had tears come out of his eyes.
Oh, we spent some time with Mark, and his sister was there, and when the brother-in-law went out to the lifts, and we said to each other we didn't think we'd ever see him again.
That was probably my lowest point. I said to my wife, I said, "I'm not going to get out of this. It's just going the wrong way." For some reason, and I don't think you really do anything consciously, but for some reason, the body at that stage, on the same day, turned around, and up I came. Ever so slowly, but it was upwards all the way, and we got better and better, until you could start saying to yourself, well, it's not a bad day today. I was venturing out a little bit more, to the stage where I would go to the fishing shops. I just like to look at the new rods and the new reels. Just still tapping. As you get better, it sort of speeds up. You know, it snowballs, and I've got myself into a position where I think, well, I'll come home to Tumby Bay and I won't work again.
Yes. Oh, yes, we got a whiting. When we decided to sell the bakery and the bakery finally sold, it was just such a relief to think that that's over and now we can move on and think about ourselves and do something for ourselves.
Oh, this is lovely, isn't it? Have a look at this. So that's the nose.
Mm-hmm. And then
the
chin.
It's a boy.
No, I don't know.
It is. It's got man's, I can see man's hands here, and it's got your curled up nose.
It means the world to Mark and I that Kylie Ann and Justin are having a baby, a grandchild, so we can enjoy.
It's got a very robust looking face.
And Mark will be able to enjoy it for a lot of years yet, I hope.
The hand's got fisherman's hands.
I just can't wait.
I said to my doctor, you know, remission. What, are you ever going to tell me I'm in remission? She said, well, basically you are in remission. And I said, well, that's what I've been wanting to hear from you. The doctor originally said we would hope to get you through 5 years. We would hope. Having said that, he also said that treatments are changing, and they are. I've seen a change in my treatment already. So, you know, got lots to look forward to: camping, fishing, no bakeries. It'll be good.
When I was diagnosed with lymphoma, I was physically and spiritually devastated. I didn't realise how tough the treatment would be on my body. I didn't sing, I couldn't. I did make a decision, however, to take a positive approach and focused on surviving. Now the word is spreading that better research, treatments, and most importantly, earlier diagnosis mean that lymphoma is no longer a death sentence.
I'm Sharon Millman and I'm President of the Lymphoma Support and Research Association. Our aim is to look after lymphoma patients across Australia, raise awareness, give them education and support. It was born out of a group of lymphoma patients, what they thought Australia needed. My mother was elected the founding president. Mum was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma in 1992.
Non-Hodgkin's lymphoma hasn't had a terribly high profile. For a patient, particularly in Shirley's situation, to develop a support network and to start to raise awareness was quite incredible.
Shirley's going to present the 16 years runners-up Downey Park.
She was a leader, she was a fighter, she was an inspiration to people. In her final few days, she actually did say, please do not leave the lymphoma patients of Australia. Please keep this going for them. She knew that she had lost her battle. She was actually still thinking of the patients that she had been working with.
Most of the patients who develop non-Hodgkin's lymphoma are over the age of 60, and we see patients in their 80s and even early 90s who develop aggressive lymphoma, and they expect and deserve the same approach to treatment that we use in younger patients, that is trying to actually cure the disease. In John's case, he was perfectly well, but had a very nasty type of lymphoma.
When I was diagnosed with lymphoma, I felt perfectly well. In fact, I jogged 5 Ks that morning, and even looking back, I can't say that I had any symptoms. Come in, dear. Yep. I still, after 35 years, get pleasure going to work. We did the blood pressure last time. You had a lovely low blood pressure, didn't you? I remember. One of my partners is my GP, and I hadn't had a checkup for about 6 months, so he gave me a good checkup, and he said, let's get the routine test done, and bang, there it was. I had the usual denial, shock, thinking, what a pity. I would have liked to go on a few more years.
I'd just come back from my morning walk, and he came home at lunchtime, and I just knew that there was something wrong by the look on his face. I couldn't believe it. The first thing he said was, damn, I'm never going to be a grandfather.
I felt pretty badly about it because, like many doctors, I think we've seen lots of patients in years gone by die of lymphoma.
When we went to see Mark Bentley, I think he saw just the shocked look on our faces, and he gave us both reassurance that this diagnosis wasn't necessarily a death sentence. There was lots that he could do. He could help us.
John had a lymphoma that even 3 or 4 years ago we would struggle to treat, and there have been some advances in treatment by giving very intense chemotherapy, and particularly a new type of treatment for lymphoma which involves an antibody, and that he could look forward to an over 80% chance of being in remission 4 years down the track.
Linda and I have been married for 35 years. 35 years. We've got 4 children, 3 girls and a boy.
We are a close family, and it was just very, very hard. Sorry.
I think the hardest thing was that we had 2 children doing final university exams, and we really didn't think it was fair to burden them with this. So, we decided not to say anything for a week or so, and that was very hard. And finally, one of the children picked it and said, "What is the matter with you two?" And so then we told them.
It was like surreal. You kept thinking that you were going to wake up and this wasn't really going to be the case, and every day you woke up and I just remembered that yes, this in fact was happening.
It was a very, very strong and long treatment of chemotherapy. There were times that were very emotional, times that I drove home, and cried from the hospital until I walked through the front door, just not knowing.
It's really all or nothing with lymphoma. We have to eradicate every single lymphoma cell to put patients into remission, and anything left behind, particularly any resistant cells, means that their lymphoma is fated to simply return.
One of the good things that came out of this, when we told our children, our oldest daughter said, well, it's about time you had some grandchildren.
Admittedly, when I found out that first night, one of my first thoughts was, Dad may never get to see a grandchild. And then I was driving home thinking, what does it all mean? You know, what does life all mean? And it was really Christmas Day that we announced that we were pregnant and that Mitchell was due the following August.
Our eldest daughter, to her credit, came to the party, and now we're so lucky we have 2 grandchildren, and many more to come, we hope.
I think the most positive thing I found that it did for Dad was to take his mind off what was happening to him.
With Pamela, you've got to get the peach really stiff before you add the sugar.
Because of our association with Japan, we're hosting an official party, and we're having lunch with them today, trying to give them a good Australian lunch.
Since I've had lymphoma, I've taken a great deal of interest in it. In the year that I've been back at work, I've diagnosed several people. And I think the good thing that I now realise is that there is no age limit to treatment. The trick is to have it crisp on the outside and lovely and squishy in the middle.
Dorikashimasu.
Very good. Very good, very good.
Beautiful. Now that I'm 1.5 years down the track, you start to get a bit of confidence back.
I'm satisfied from the bottom of my heart.
Oh, good. Good expression. Satisfied from the bottom of his heart.
The longer you go, the more knowledge is known and the more agents are discovered. So the longer you last, the longer you last.
The survival rates for people with lymphoma have really improved in the last decade. In the 80s and 90s, 5 or 6 people in every 10 people would survive for 5 years, and now 8 or 9 people out of every 10 should survive. So the figures are really improving.
Conferences, stuff.
At the Leukaemia Foundation, I coordinate all the activities that we spend money on. So it's all our research activity, our advocacy activity, and then all the services to patients and families. There has been an increase in investment in lymphoma research because the rate of lymphoma is increasing across the world. The Beacons of Hope is a worldwide initiative to raise awareness of lymphoma, featuring stories of lymphoma survivors. It involved projecting images of these people onto a building in London. Lauren Hubert was one of the Australians who was chosen as a beacon of hope, and Lauren has an amazing story, and she's really a wonderful example of how people can come through lymphoma and get on with their lives.
Guess what? That was Edwina. She tracked down a ticket for me for the concert.
I've got 4 children and they're all very sporty. Lauren, she's our eldest, she's 20 and she is quite arty, and Thomas is 18 on Monday and he's a cyclist and that's his passion in life. Caitlin, she's 15 and she's also very sporty. She does BMX and plays netball. And Brenton is 13 and his passion is golf.
The weekends is where I spend most of my time with the children. Yeah, it's all about, meeting the kids' needs really, and I really enjoy that.
I was in Year 8. Everything was fantastic. I played sport and had lots of friends. And then suddenly one day, I found out that I had cancer and my whole world kind of fell from underneath me.
She hadn't been sick at all. She'd, been participating in netball and triathlons and ballroom dancing. And we were away on holidays and she just said to me, "Oh, I've got a mozzie bite, Mum, but it won't go away."
When Lauren came to see me, she had these relatively unusual looking skin rash. When we did the biopsy of this skin rash, showed an accumulation of lymphoma cells forming a lump within the skin layers. And there were multiple lumps. And they penetrated deeper and deeper into the skin. So what you could see on Lauren's skin was really a bit like an iceberg. It was the tip of the iceberg.
I remember getting the phone call. I was in an office and drove down there straight away, and it was sort of almost, like one of your worst nightmares, and I was driving along thinking, I can't believe this is happening.
The first thing I did was say to myself when I found out that I had lymphoma, I'm going to beat it. I was only 13 at the time.
I was with Lauren the whole time through it. When she went to hospital, I went and I stayed. It was like an emotional roller coaster. But yeah, it's hard to see your child go through the pain and suffering that she did. But you've got to remain positive all the time.
My mum was really strong. She never showed any sadness, but when I was in bed at night I could hear my mum crying and I could hear my dad trying to comfort her, and I don't think she knew that I could hear her, but I could see that my family was falling apart and they were really upset. And it just really hurt me because I just couldn't help it.
Most students here at St Mary's have quite a busy social life, ample time to study, attending classes, that kind of thing, and Lauren missed out on all of that.
It was really hard because I had a lot of friends and I did a lot of sporting things, and then all of a sudden, because my hair fell out and all of a sudden I was this sick girl, everybody started avoiding me, not because they were being mean, they just didn't know what to say. Hey, how are you today?
Did you get tickets?
No, I didn't. Anna's my best friend and she was there with me through everything. She'd always call me, she'd always cheer me up if I was sad.
It was a big shock to all of us at school. I saw my healthy and happy and kind of my friend turn into something different. Just walking into a hospital room and she was that sick that she couldn't open her eyes and talk to me, and I just sat with her and held her hand and told her that I loved her and that it'd be all right.
When I first saw her, I would say Lauren had somewhere between 65 and 70% chance of it being cured. Lauren did respond to the chemotherapy. She had no evidence of disease at the time we did all the final scans. And at that stage we were hopeful that she would go very well.
After the year, I was in remission completely, and all of my doctors were very happy with my progress, and so then I went away on a holiday overseas and had a wonderful time. But while I was over there I got very sick, and so I got flown straight back and I went back into hospital to go through it all again, and it was just so hard because I'd been so positive the first time.
The initial one was very scary, but then the second time when it came back, just thought, why is this happening? It was heart-wrenching. We didn't understand it, and we just thought, how are we ever going to get rid of it?
I remember exactly what I said to my dad when I got it back. I said, I'm going to kick this thing in the butt and I'm going to get rid of it, and this time is definite.
We treated her again, this time with more intensive chemotherapy, which she tolerated okay. We then did what's called an autologous bone marrow transplant, so we gave her own bone marrow back as part of her therapy, and once again the disease was gone and hopefully never to return.
Yeah, unfortunately it did come back a third time, and that was when I was given the choice of my treatment, and yeah, it was kind of facing, everything.
From my point of view, her only chance of cure at this stage was to attempt this bone marrow transplant, where you give someone else's bone marrow. I had given the family 20% chance of cure and a 25% chance of dying during the transplant.
In terms of her survival, I suppose it wasn't really a risk, because if we didn't go ahead with the bone marrow transplant, then she wouldn't have survived at all.
My diary was like my friend. I'm in pain, but I can't speak or move. I can't really eat, sit up, or even open my eyes. It was somewhere where I could write about how I felt because I was isolated for 100 days. Everything's so blurry. Mum was holding my hand and talking to Dad on the phone at the same time. I love you is all that we can say to each other. After the transplant, everything has been really wonderful. To start off with, every day was hard to get through, just wondering if it was going to come back, and then every month then I'd be counting down. Every time it came around to a 1 year I'd get excited, but now it's been 3 years and I think everything's going to be alright.
Trying to get through year 12 is difficult enough under normal circumstances, but Lauren is carrying this great weight around, is quite unwell, had spent weeks in hospital, and she's still trying to cope with the stresses of year 12.
She did extremely well in HSC and we're very proud of what she's done.
I guess most people wouldn't think of it as an opportunity because most people don't experience having cancer, so if she can beat that, there's nothing in the world that she can't do if she puts her mind to it.
At the moment I'm in my first year of a Bachelor of Speech Pathology and I'm thoroughly enjoying it, but I hope to do medicine in the future. I would one day hope to become a doctor. I've become so passionate about the area and giving people hope and strength that we would otherwise not have. I'm really positive that I'm going to live a long, happy, healthy and cancer-free life.
I was 30 when I battled lymphoma, and after all I'd achieved in my personal and professional life, had to face mortality. I came through the journey a new person, strengthened mentally, and like many others, I've been given the greatest gift, a second chance at life.